In a previous video we covered how to avoid plagiarism, but to recap, basically things to keep in mind if you're using someone else's words as far as a direct quote. You've got to put quotation marks around it and also a parenthetical citation at the end. That parenthetical citation usually has the author's last name and page number. This video is going to talk about how we distinguish between information that's called common knowledge information and information that we should actually cite. The main difference between common knowledge and non-common knowledge is if something is not common knowledge, you are responsible for providing a citation if you use it in your paper for either a direct quote or a paraphrase. So the worksheet you looked at had several different scenarios, and some of these are actually common knowledge examples to where you wouldn't have to provide a citation. So I want to talk about which ones those are and why, and also I want to look at which ones would not be considered common knowledge and ones you would have to provide a citation for and why. The first example talks about finding a statistic. Now this is a little tricky. Some students would think that a statistic would be a concrete number, that numbers are indisputable facts, and they would say, well, since a number is a fact, that must be common knowledge. I would say that anytime you find a specific statistic done by an organization or a group of people or a government agency or anything like that, if you find a statistic that you should cite where it comes from, and the reason why is that the nature of statistics is statistics change depending on the experimental design. You could have statistics that are basically all from the same basic experiment design, and you could have the same basic experiment design performed 8 times and have 8 different statistical results. So it's important that you realize that a statistic, even though it's portrayed as fact, that the nature of a statistic is that if it's replicated, it may actually lead to a different number. So to be safe, I always say that statistical information, since those numbers can change depending on the source you look at, always cite where you're finding your statistic from. Another good thing about citing a statistic is it shows that this is in fact a credible statistic, that you did not just make this up, which is what's the adage, 70% of all statistics are made up, right? Haha. Number 2, if I were looking for Edgar Allan Poe's birthday, I don't know that off the top of my head, so if I were doing a research paper about him, let's say I'm doing a biography about him, I'd have to find that out. Let's say that I use an encyclopedia to do so. His birthday, it's not going to be something that changes. That would be considered common knowledge, so the second example is one you would not have to provide a citation for. Now, the third example, you are summarizing a theory called the collective unconscious. Now, a summary, remember, is where you put an idea in your own words, so you don't have to worry about a direct quote. However, this would be an example of where I would give a citation, because here you're using an idea that someone else directly came up with. So why not give a citation? Citations only enhance your paper as long as you use them in moderation. Remember, you don't want to go overboard, and you don't want to have a citation every other sentence. You want to use outside sources to highlight your opinion, not vice versa. You don't want to just throw in your opinion every few lines to back up the majority of what other people have said. Make sure that in a paper, a research paper, the majority of the opinion is your opinion. So this third example I would definitely give a citation for. In the fourth example, now as far as the major details of the Battle of Gettysburg, this would be things like the number of troops involved, the date, just to be kind of the hard numbers. And I would say that this is probably factual information that you would not have to worry about finding, you would not have to worry about using a citation for, unless, keep in mind that any of these examples we say, don't worry about a citation, it's common knowledge, if you are using the exact same word choice as the source that you're getting it from. Even if it's common knowledge, you have to give quote reference, because if you're using someone else's words, you got to give credit for that, or it's plagiarism. The fifth example is talking about a speech class in which you use information from a previous class lecture, I would say to you that if you are aware of where this information came from, that you remember what class you got it from, that I would definitely give the citation, just because it's going to enhance you as a speaker. It's going to look powerful that you're able to bring in another expert in the field into your argument and show that the expert and you share agreement. Now, if you're in a situation where it's something that you remember hearing about in the past and you don't exactly remember where you heard it, I'd say that for speech class you wouldn't necessarily have to worry about if you're just kind of restating an idea that you've learned somewhere in the past. You're not copying directly from a source, and you're also not directly using a source to find the idea. You're just using your memory. So that I'd say you're okay to not give citation for if you don't remember what class you got it from. If you remember the class, then again, why not use the citation? It's only going to reinforce your ethos as a writer, your credibility. It's going to make you look more confident and persuasive in what you're writing. The next example, this is an example that some students have difficulty understanding. If in a class you're able to, in a writing assignment, bring in material you wrote for a previous class. Let's say that your English 1010 persuasive paper is actually something that piggybacks well off of a paper you wrote junior year high school. There is such a thing called self-plagiarism, and this means that for your college classes, your instructors expect that any work done in the college class is unique and original work for the semester. That means that if you go back to work you've done in previous semesters, you should always ask the instructor's permission. And the instructor may have no problem with you building off of what you've already looked at. Your instructor probably would not want you to just turn in an old paper that you've already done, but your instructor may be like, yeah, why don't you explore these ideas? But if you just turn in a new paper that has passages that you've done in the past in a previous assignment, and your teacher somehow caught that, and there are ways, then you would be in a situation of plagiarism, even if it's self-plagiarism. The last example goes to something that some students are surprised about as far as Wikipedia. Now, in this example, this is talking about you're given a research topic that you don't really know anything about it, such as stem cell research or stem cell cloning. If you have no idea what that word even means, then before you start finding sources about it, you probably will need to do some very basic research as far as getting a general grasp of the issue itself before you go into the more advanced ideas. So I'd say that if you're using something like Wikipedia to just get a very basic comprehension of an item, and you're not directly quoting it or anything like that, you're just using it to inform you about the issue, then there's no need to cite it. Now, I will say that you run into problems if you were to ever directly quote the website Wikipedia. Some teachers would argue that it's a terrible source. I actually think that Wikipedia can be useful if it's used for the right reasons, if it's used to give you just a basic comprehension before you explore the topic further. And also at the bottom of Wikipedia there's often some good websites that may take you to some actual credible sources. But I will go ahead and tell you, in an academic paper, if you ever have Wikipedia on your works cited page, your teacher will laugh at you. Wikipedia is not considered an academic source. So if you use Wikipedia to inform your opinion, make sure it's a very general information, that it's just the facts of the issue, not really getting into the opinion. So the basic thing to keep in mind if you're trying to see the difference between common knowledge that you don't have to cite and citable material, anything that is opinion that you are finding from someone else directly, and that you, of course, are using their word choice, you must provide a citation for. If something is concrete fact, and concrete's the key word there, then you don't have to necessarily worry about a citation unless you use the exact same word choice. Please keep in mind, if you're ever in doubt, I would go ahead and provide the citation just to be safe.